I'm live. Okay. I'm really new at this. Let me close some screens here because it seems to be spotty. Let me just see if that helps to have everything else off. There we go. One more. Okay, you can tell I'm just learning this here. Okay, so welcome to my first Facebook Live on my page. We'll see how this goes. So the reason I wanted to talk about this is in the last month or so, I've had two different people say the same thing to me about how they needed to tell someone to change their behaviors, like they were doing something that was upsetting to them. But they said, well, I can't really say anything because I should have said something a long time ago. And I thought that was really funny because that's something that I always had a problem with when I was under assertive. So I thought I would just share this information with you about how to just get started. So there's really kind of, I thought I'd break it down to three basic points just to get over that initial hump. So if this is of importance to you, by the way, if you could like and share my page, this broadcast, then it would get the word out. And I also want to know from you if there's other topics that you'll want me to talk about. I'd be happy to do so. So three things that would be the first thing. The first thing you have to be aware of is the reason you haven't said anything is because you've thought about it too long. So when we think, and by too long, I mean split seconds, you know when somebody's doing something and it's kind of like bothering you, but you don't want to say anything, it's just because you're thinking, you've second-guessed yourself. The minute we second-guess ourselves, then we don't do it. Then we don't have the courage to speak up because, well, maybe it's not such a big deal. Maybe I'm being too nitpicky. This kind of thing starts happening, right? So what you want to do is just be clear that your emotions stopped you and that you do have a right to say something. So once you realize that it's really your emotions that's stopping you, not because you're right or wrong, but just your emotions, and you start just asking yourself, if this was happening to someone else, would you say, well, say something? Then you know that it's time to say something. I don't know if I'm looking at my screen here and it's like really odd because it feels like I'm disjointed. We'll see what this video looks like after. I may have to delete it and start over. So that's the first thing, is just be aware of your emotions, and that's what's got you in trouble in the first place. So now it's time to say something. So you have to pick a time and a place that makes sense. And this is different for different circumstances. So if you are talking to somebody or want to talk to somebody who's a close personal friend, then it makes sense to go to a Tim Hortons or to a restaurant, or maybe go walk in a nice park and have a conversation. But you let them know, there's something I should have said sooner and I didn't, and I'd like to do that and give you that information. So it's not a big deal, but it's time to say something. You warn them ahead of time. You don't just just hit them with it. If it's someone at work, you may have to do it a little differently, depending on whether they're a colleague, an equal colleague, or if they're a subordinate, or if they're your superior, will depend on how you're going to approach that. Maybe we can do another Facebook Live on that. And when you do sit down with the person, always make the assumption that they're not doing whatever it is they're doing to irritate you. And so the first thing you want to do is say, you may not be aware, but... So just start with that, and then talk about how you feel about what they're doing. So when you say you may not be aware, but, and this is my perception, then you tell them what you would rather have. It's as simple as that. You may not be aware, but, and this is what I would prefer. Now, a couple of things can happen there. If it's been a long time in coming and they've been doing the wrong thing for a long time and they didn't mean to, they might feel hurt and get defensive. And sometimes it's kind of justified. Sometimes it's like they're really overreacting, but sometimes it's justified. And I wanted to share a story of this is an older client, one of my coaching clients. I was coaching this woman on for her work, actually, but I'm a holistic type of coach, so we talk about everything, anything that comes up. And so she started telling me that she'd only ever told, it was either her sister or her best friend or something. She told this person that her husband did a sexual move that she didn't enjoy. He did it on their honeymoon. She didn't know how to tell him at the time that she didn't enjoy this. So she's been pretending for years, and he thought she liked it. And so with my support, she finally had this difficult conversation, and she said he was hurt for a couple of days. He said, you let me do something that you didn't like for all these years, and I was trying to please you. So you can imagine how silly this was. And she'd been married for a while ago, so I think it was about 20 years that they'd been married. They had older kids. So you can imagine, but afterwards, by the end of our time together as a coach and coachee, she said, I think you saved my marriage because we're having a great time. And it was like dating all over again. So we can really revitalize our relationships. If they're intimate relationships, we can really revitalize them. And if they're not intimate relationships, we take a more professional tack. So we simply say, you may not be aware, but, and this is what I need. And when we are being honest and authentic, and we're willing to hear why, can you do this for me? Can you not do this for me? Then what ends up happening is we're seen as a more professional and confident person. So these things are hard to do because we've let them go. So it's really a split second of a decision. I'm going to talk to this person about this and set up a time and a place that makes sense. Hey, Rhonda, how are you? So I do hope you share this and like this. And if you're not already, if you haven't liked my page, this is where I'm going to be doing my Facebook Lives. So if you haven't liked my page, go and you can click that, and then you'll be notified of my next ones. And I would really love to know if there's something, like if there's a story or someone you know or something that's happened to you, send me a message, and I'll do a Facebook Live on how to have more authentic, closer relationships, even with the people that drive you crazy. So thanks for joining, and take good care of yourself. Bye now.